Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Dave Chappelle says he's invigorated. He said that at the NAACP Awards on Saturday night, where he was given the President's Award. Dave said, "I won a lot of awards recently, but this one tonight is probably the most special award I've ever gotten."
Thank you, Mr. President, for this honor. Look, I won a lot of awards recently, but this one tonight is probably the most special award I've ever gotten because it's from this institution that represents these people, us, people of color, black people. My godbrother is here tonight, Ben Jealous. Ben used to be the president of the NAACP, and I asked him, I said, what do you think I should say tonight? And Ben sent me a whole speech. But tonight I feel invigorated because all my Netflix checks cleared. I don't owe anybody any work. Right now, every time you see me, just know I'm only up there because I want to be right up there.
Dave said, "I hope all of us who work in this industry feel strong and inspired and not discouraged, especially because this is a very difficult time right now."
We got a lot of work to do, but it feels good to know that we're not in it alone, that we got each other. And remember, community is everything. Shout out to everybody who lost their home or was displaced from their home even for a time. Everybody, look, don't ever be afraid to lean on each other. My father taught me a phrase that got me all the way to where I am today. He said, whenever you mess up or you feel like you can't get up, he said, you remember these words because they're magic words. And I said, what's the words, Dad? And he said, whoops.
Good stuff from Dave there. On Gossip Corner, TMZ reported Justin Bieber takes a smoke break while catching up with Dave Chappelle. They were photographed together at Barney's Beanery in West Hollywood on Saturday night. We're told they were seen sitting on the outside patio. At one point, Justin Bieber was seen hugging another person who was arriving to the bar. It's unclear if they were with a group or others or what was going on, but Justin had his cigarette. Nate Bargatze talked about appearing at SNL 50, and on his podcast, Nate said, "I got there Wednesday because I was supposed to have rehearsal Thursday, and then as I was about to take off, they tell me I don't have to rehearse until Saturday, and rather than deboard the plane, Nate decided to spend the week in New York and maybe get in a few spots." Nate said a lot of comics we got together and hung out. So we went to the East Village with Gaffigan. Then on Wednesday night, I went over to the Comedy Cellar. Nate was aware of all the name dropping and said, "This is going to be just all names. You know, everybody's kind of in town, right? Because everybody's going to SNL 50s. So I went up, Spade went up, Rock went up. We didn't know this. They told us as we were going up. That same show, how that show started, was the host. Then it was Steve Martin, Martin Short, John Mulaney. We were the worst part of the show." He said of Steve Martin that he doesn't think that Martin's been to a room like that since the 1960s. He said the audience was very fortunate. Those people paid, I think, $18 for that ticket. We were saying, like, it's got to be one of the better lineups ever at the Cellar. Variety did a big profile of Greg Gutfeld. Now, I don't talk about Greg much because there's never anything in the press about him. Variety estimates Greg makes about $9 million a year, roughly half of what Fallon, Kimmel, and Colbert are earning. Depending on whose report you read, Gutfeld might have the top late-night show. Greg said, "I think Fallon was a victim of status preservation. I think when I see them all in agreement not to make jokes about sacred subjects out of, again, status preservations, it's because they know they'll be cast aside if they do that. I'm already cast aside. I'm free." Variety writes that Greg struggles to name a host he finds funny other than Bill Maher and Joe Rogan. Then he remembers Tim Dillon. Tim has a small role in Joker 2. And he has trashed it. Greg says of Dylan, talk about not interested in status preservation. Said it's the worst movie he's ever made and how everybody on the set knew it was terrible. That's somebody who doesn't care. Then you have Andrew Schultz and Theo Vaughn finding success in being honest and not giving a hoot. Then you have these other guys that have toed the line and they're like, are we out? In the zeitgeist, are we no longer relevant? Greg, I think, correctly analyzes Howard Stern here, and I have often said of Howard a couple things. One, Howard paid me the compliment of my career, probably 20 years ago now, the first time I met him, the only time I met him. He found out that I programmed the Raw Dog channel, and he told me it sounded really great. So Howard Stern telling me my radio station sounded great meant the world to me. But I don't think Greg is unfair here when he says the more Howard Stern had to lose, the less risk he took. I think when you're in that group, the late night comedy or humorous world, they start putting their professional status and their personal status in front of what could be really funny and what could be really true. They had 4 years of an incapacitated president, and they didn't say boo. And instead, they unravel over posts by Trump, and it's like, you could do both. Gutfeld said he did not vote for Trump in 2016, did so reluctantly in 2020, and enthusiastically in 2024. This time I went in person, like the day the freaking place opened. I was there at 9 a.m. down in the Village, and I couldn't wait. Interesting exchange here with Variety. Greg explains that his mom was Catholic. The writer says, wait, aren't you Jewish? The text then reads, this might be the only time during our hours together which he seems uncomfortable answering a question. Greg says, my dad was an atheist. I think after the Holocaust, he had no religious beliefs at all. I don't remember the stories, except that my dad didn't want to talk about it. My parents were older when they had me, so he was born in 1924-25, so he had a lot of relatives, blah, blah, blah. Variety asks, in the Holocaust? Greg said, either escaping or in. I never really talk about it because I don't know. Greg talked about when the internet wanted to cancel Sydney Sweeney because a relative of Sydney's was photographed wearing a Blue Lives Matter shirt at her mother's birthday party. Greg said, see, this is what happened when you run out of targets and how addictive it is to cancel people. It's not enough just to go after famous people. You have to go after people who are tangential to fame. Then you get a dopamine hit every time it works. Did you take down Sydney Sweeney's relative? Yes, I did. It could be, well, you're a loser. That should be the answer. Greg continues, celebrities have too much to lose to let their guard down on a show like mine. If I had Ryan Reynolds or somebody sitting there and we're doing a segment on trans and sports, you think he's going to tell me what he thinks? F no. He's going to be looking for his publicist. You said you were promoting a movie. You didn't tell me they were going to ask me about this. Greg said, I don't need it. Kimmel could have Kevin Costner on. I'd still beat him. I'd still double his ratings. I wanted to shout out the people who support the show, the regular members at buymeacoffee.com. They are Deb, Tommy, Andrea, Gary, Shannon, Mike, and Kenny. Much appreciated. It is one way to support the show. You go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. You throw a couple bucks in the tip jar. You can become a member, the $2 club. As I always say, $2, if 500,000 people do it, I'll have $1 million. Can you imagine that? Not quite at 500,000 yet, but, we're getting there. Buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. Appreciate you guys supporting the show. The SAG Awards were Sunday night, and people paid attention to them this year because they were on Netflix. The Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Comedy Series, the nominees, Abbott Elementary, Hacks, Shrinking, The Bear, which, as we all know, is not a comedy at all. So the winner, Only Murders in the Building. Outstanding performance by a male actor in a comedy series. The nominees, Adam Brody, Nobody Wants This, Ted Danson, Man on the Inside, Harrison Ford, Shrinking, Jeremy Allen White for a dramatic series, The Bear. The winner, Martin Short, Only Murders. Outstanding performance by a female actor in a comedy series. Nominees, Kristen Bell, Nobody Wants This, Quinta Brunson, Abbott, Lisa Colon Zayas for drama series The Bear, Ayo Edebiri for drama series The Bear. The winner, Gene Smart for Hacks. Chelsea Handler has a book out today. It's called I'll Have What She's Having. It's Tuesday. What's the Netflix special today? Looks like there isn't one today. I don't have anything in the notes, and I usually put these in the notes. The next two are Andrew Schultz on March 4th and Chelsea Handler on March 25th. And last week was Rosebud Baker. Okay, I guess they didn't do one this week. So if you need something to watch, Gina Brillin, she's got a special out on YouTube today. In Mind Your Business, Gina tackles everything from becoming a mother during the pandemic, the evolving challenges of parenthood, the rising costs of travel, and the complexities of our ever-changing social climate. And I pulled a couple clips here. I'm going to split this into today and tomorrow because it's just not cool to turn my show into I play clips from Trevor Noah's podcast. But I was listening to the episode from February 6th where he was talking about hosting the Grammys, and I thought this was really interesting. Trevor explained the push and pull of playing to the room versus playing to the audience at home. I'll let this go for a little bit.
The weird thing about doing live TV, especially an award show or anything like that, is you're balancing two balls that are very differently sized. You have the TV audience, which is massive, and then you have the live audience, which is tiny in comparison. However, the live audience has a direct and immediate impact on you.
Mm-hmm.
The TV audience does not.
Yeah.
But now if you ignore the live audience, that is at your peril as a performer because they will never be with you. And if you don't have the room, you don't have the right energy that gets you to where you need to be in whatever you're saying. They're not listening. They're not paying attention. They're not coming with you. They're not laughing. You name it. If you only pay attention to the room, the person at home is going, well, clearly this is not for me.
Yeah.
This is taking too long. And you've watched an award show where it feels self-indulgent. You're sitting at home and then the people there are like, nice shoes, ha 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 ha. And you're like, all right, clearly this is not about me. I'm just watching people. But this is the delicate dance. You are making a show for television. But there aren't 200 people in that room with you. There are 14,000 people in the room with you. So they are as important in a weird way as the people at home, and yet they serve very different purposes. So your pace for the people in the room is different to your pace for the people at home. Your pace for a joke is different, your pace for everything. So in these moments, what I'm experiencing is I've just felt where the room is when we've come out of the top of the show, and I've gone, damn, we have a lot of work to do tonight because people aren't as celebratory as they normally are.
Pretty interesting, right? He then explained the vibe in the room. That was right around the LA fires, and he explains that he was editing on the fly and just kind of feeling the vibe and not just doing the act as written and moving some stuff around so as not to screw things up. Really interesting here.
And I've gone, damn, we have a lot of work to do tonight because people aren't as celebratory as they normally are. So now when people are saying, how are you and how have you been? At every table, whether it's Cynthia Erivo talking to Taylor Swift, whether it's John Legend going over and talking to, Esperanza Spalding or whoever it is, everyone there is going, how are you? Normally it's like, hey, what's up? How you feeling? Yeah, baby. Oh, look at you. No, now people are like, how are you? Doesn't matter why. How are you? And now I'm going, oh man, this is not where I would do the jokes that I thought I would do, and I've got to move that around. I'm doing all of this in my head.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how we're shifting things. I'm trying to think of, and I mean, you know me well, both of you do. After every show I go, there's a million things I could have done better, But because I know comedy's so precarious, I'm always like, it's the death of you.
Got a couple more clips from Trevor tomorrow. That great Jim Gaffigan joke. Apparently nobody told Jim they were about to do it, so Trevor will tell that story tomorrow. In the meantime, listen to Trevor's podcast. This is the February 6th episode that I'm talking about here. We'll end on a sad note. Lynne Marie Stewart. You may know her as Charlie's mom on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. She's passed away at age 78. You may also know her as Miss Yvonne on The Pee Wee Herman Show. Deadline reports that Stewart passed away on February 21st at the age of 78. Manager Betty Smith reported that Stewart had found a tumor between her liver and gallbladder and said that Lynne was the most talented actress. She loved her craft above everything. Lynne Marie Stewart was 78.